My guests have all hit the money jackpot, but they still work very hard for their money. Please meet them now. First, Tom Monaghan started out in the pizza business with a $500 loan in 1960. He's now founder, president, and chairman of the board of Domino's Pizza Incorporated of Ann Arbor, Michigan, the world's largest pizza delivery company and the second largest pizza chain in the United States. For sports fans, he is also the sole owner of the Detroit Tigers Baseball Club. In his first year as owner, they won the 1984 World Series, of course. In the 4 years before Victor Kiam bought the company in 1979, Remington Products lost $30 million. Last year, Remington shavers grossed over $160 million with a profit of $10 million. Mr. Kiam recently wrote a book called Going For It, How to Succeed as an Entrepreneur. Richard Thalheimer began his mail-order career when he spent $200 on a magazine ad in 1977. He was selling digital watches. He now sells much, much more. He is founder and president of the Shopper Image Catalog, which grossed $100 million last year. The company has a number of retail stores as well. In 1967, Tom Faggio bought one used garbage truck. From that beginning, he built Browning Ferris Industry, the world's largest waste management concern with annual sales of over $1 billion. The latest of his many ventures is Living Well Incorporated, which operates over 400 fitness centers with 1.5 million members around the country. He is founder and chairman. In 1977, stores did not sell the kind of high-quality educational toys Lane Nemeth wanted for her baby daughter. So she decided to track them down and sell them to parents who felt as she did. She borrowed $25,000 and started Discovery Toys Incorporated. Sales this year are projected to reach $60 million. What did you want to be when you grow up? I mean, did you say, I'm going to own the world, I'm going to be a dynamic tycoon? What did you want to be, Tom?
Oh, not much. I just wanted to be a priest, an architect, and shortstop for the Detroit Tigers.
A priest, a shortstop. Well, you got the Detroit Tigers.
Well, I got kicked out of the seminary, so I
Why?
Mischief, pillow fights in the dorm, and talking in study hall and things like that. Nothing serious like smoking or anything like that. And I couldn't hit the curveball. And when I was a kid, I lived in an orphanage, and when I got out, I had to work on foster farms, and so I didn't have a chance to play sports. So I started dreaming about owning the Tigers as second best.
If you can't play ball, own it. Victor, you're favored by life. You had a good start. Good schools, good...
Oh, yes. A lot of it thanks to the country we live in, because I went through first the V-12 and then the GI Bill. So a lot of my education, the great bulk of it, is due to living in the United States. I think that what has driven me is really looking at business, which we'll spend more time on than anything else except sleeping in our life, as a game, and trying to have fun at it, and trying to be successful at whatever I tried to do. And so the money, which you mentioned earlier, many people think that that's what drives entrepreneurs. I don't think that's the ultimate. I think it's a sense of accomplishment, the feeling of self-worth, and the money comes. When I was in a large corporation, I never opted for the job that would pay the most. I opted for the job with the most opportunity.
I don't think you can have money as an issue and take the risk to get into an entrepreneurial thing to begin with.
That's right.
Because you got to be crazy. You give up everything you have. You put your house, your car, your family, your firstborn child on the line. For what? You have no idea. So if money is an issue, you can't take that risk. You just sort of assume it will be there someday. I really think it's got to be a mission. I think you're absolutely right, Victor.
That's really the entrepreneur's thought. Other people who aren't entrepreneurial may look at money as the end-all. But I think this group here is driven by something else besides the financial rewards.
What made you take a garbage truck? What made you take a garbage truck?
Well, I was the president of our civic club in Houston, Texas, and we were having problems with our garbage collection service. And there was a guy that we were exploring all various alternatives of what to do, and a particular fellow looked at me after I had suggested that we consider buying our own garbage truck. He said, we're not supposed to be in the garbage business. Why don't you just buy a truck and and you go into the business. Well, I'd hate to think that I'd make a business decision based on an emotional reaction. I will say I had an emotional reaction to his comment, but I thought about it a few days, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. So I bought a garbage truck and went in the business.
I'm curious, what was your emotional reaction?
I was mad. I didn't like it. You know, I mean, I
He
thought it was
insulted you initially?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good idea. We had 2,000 homes, and we were having problems with our garbage collection service. Why shouldn't we buy one and solve the problem?
But it isn't just garbage that is sometimes not in favor. When I was in college in 1970, being in business was not admired. And I was a salesman in the evening for Encyclopedia Britannica.
That was even worse.
I'd go out at night and make hundreds of dollars. And my students really, my fellow students, felt that was terrible. When I graduated, they all made fun of me. And I went out to San Francisco and started a sales company of my own right away. And they'd visit me and they'd say, "What's wrong with you? You could go to law school or something," which I did eventually do on the side, but I didn't want to go in law school first. I wanted to get in sales business. They thought that was really dumb because that was the Vietnam era. So entrepreneurship depends a lot on what era you're in as to whether or not it's admired.
You know, I think you've got an important point about money not being the trigger, money not being the incentive, the challenge, or the... How did you get into opening pizza parlors?
Well, I got into the pizza business because the pizza place was available with a $500 down payment, which I was able to borrow. And
$500 seems to be the secret these days.
and I thought that this pizza place would pay my way through architecture school. And I was losing money for the first year or so, and so I realized I was stuck in the business. And on one of my deliveries, I met a girl that I eventually married, and so I was stuck in it. And in the meantime,
Stuck in the girl and the pizza?
both.
Was she,
I fell in love with both of them.
was she a customer of the pizza? You delivered a pizza to her door?
No, she was working at switchboard in a dormitory at Central Michigan University. And I tried to strike up a conversation with her while the girl came down to get her pizza. I was pretty shy with girls, and I didn't get very far. But I did manage to, when I got back to the dorm, call her up and ask her for a date. And to my surprise, she said yes. And then I was so busy, I was working 7 days a week, I couldn't waste much time. On the third date, I showed up with an engagement ring. She didn't accept it.
She didn't take it?
No.
She's a rare girl.
It was a good test. She took it a week later. I was afraid to propose to her because I was so shy with girls. But,
so you
I just
held your
handed it
hand
to her.
out,
That's right.
turned your back,
That's right.
and left a ring in her hand.
That's right.
I never think of entrepreneurs as being shy people in general, so that's an interesting story. I think of entrepreneurs generally as being very extroverted, very confident people. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe they're overcoming their shyness by doing well in the world of business to compensate.
I can't get off this for a second. How can 3 dates lead to marriage? I mean, you realize you were flirting with disaster.
I think I knew what I wanted, and I recognized quality when I seen it, and it turned out very well.
It was the way she answered the door? No, I'm just getting some
The way
clues for
she ate
myself.
the pizza.
But each of you, now, for example, you had a tough time the first year.
Yes.
Not enough to drive you out of the business.
Well, I was selling these little 6-inch pizzas along with the larger sizes, and I was selling them for 30 cents a pizza, and I was delivering them all over town, 6, 7, 8 miles away, free with no delivery charge, and yet I was busier and all get out, and I really didn't have time to get organized, to sit down and go through the bills and go through numbers and figure out what was going on. Every day was a crisis. And one day, after about a year, someone ordered about 12 of these little pizzas in the middle of a rush, and I just got mad, and I said, we're not taking any more orders for the 6-inch pizzas. I don't care how little business we do. And we end up having a night that was 50% better than any night we ever had dollar-wise, and we never got busy. And so all of a sudden I was making about $500 a week. And until then I was losing about $500 a week. So that was a $1,000 swing.
Victor, your ad on television says, I tried this thing. I liked it so much I bought the company. And if you have any gripe and want your money back, I'll be happy to send it to you or something. Did you really buy the company because you thought the product was so good?
That is a true story. You know, everybody thinks it's Madison Avenue hype, But what happened was I was looking around for a new adventure. I'd been chairman of a public company and started an import business from mainland China. And one of the things that I'd come across was the Remington Company. It was a division of the Sperry Corporation that makes Univac. And I had all these books and records out because I was looking at it. My wife came home, asked me what I was looking at, and I told her. And she said, they make electric shavers, don't they? And I said, yes. She said, how could you look at that? You've never shaved electrically in your life. And I looked at her and said, honey, I was in the brassiere business for 12 years, and I never wore one of them either. But she went out the next day and bought me a shaver, electric shaver, the first one I ever had. And I tried it, and I flipped. And then I went out and tried all the other electric shavers, and none of them were as good. So I said, why isn't this company successful? There's got to be something wrong. And then I looked at the marketing, and I thought I could do things differently than had been done in the past.
What was wrong with it? Because the only thing I think you've done is you. You have projected yourself on 1 million television screens and saying, I own this company. I wouldn't own it if I didn't think it was the best product in the world. What else did you do?
Well, first we eliminated 70 non-essential executives for a payroll cut of about over $2 million. They were part of a corporate structure. Secondly, we made the line shorter because the old company kept bringing out new styles and discontinuing them so that the retailer wasn't very happy. And the third and probably most important thing is there was a feeling in the old company that you're only going to sell so many electric shavers, so it didn't make any difference what the price was. So we cut the price from, at that time, the lowest price shaver that Remington sold was $34.95, and we brought one out at $19.95. And those three things, I think, accounted for our success as much as any television or anything else. And when you market a product, it's a mix of things that makes a success. You said the commercial. If that commercial had run and the shaver had been priced at $100, I don't think we'd be sitting here today.
On the other hand, I think if you hadn't done the commercial, you wouldn't have done as well as you did.
Oh, it
you
may have
talked me
helped
into
a little
going
bit.
out to look at that razor, which I never would have done in a million years.
Really? I did that to you?
Yeah, I believed you.
I'm proud
I really
of myself.
And
You came across as so
it
sincere.
hasn't ended. He's going to deliver a pizza to you.
I'm ready. The Domino's just opened around my
Trouble is,
neighborhood.
you're both happily married. We have to pause. We'll be right back.
In just a minute, you're going to find out how you can get this terrific alarm clock telephone absolutely free. So stay where you are, then I'll be right back to tell you more.
When you read Time each week, you know more. You understand.
Time flies, and you are there. Time cries, and lets you care. You understand the world we share.
Now Time is offering you more than ever. Order Time right now, and you'll get this terrific alarm clock and push-button telephone in one, free with your paid subscription.
Yes, time brings you closer to living. Time puts events in sharp review. Time brings it all right home to you.
Each week, Time takes you beyond the news to show you how fascinating the world really is. And now you can get Time for almost half off the cover price. Call 1-800-621-4300 and get 30 issues of Time, payable in 4 easy installments of just $7.49 each. Order now, and you'll also get Time's combination alarm clock telephone, absolutely free. This handsome space saver comes complete with snooze bar and automatic redial. Perfect for your desk or bedside. So call 1-800-621-4300 right now.
Throughout your land, time puts it all right in your hand. Read time and understand.
Hi, I'm Jenny, an operator here at Time. Remember, if you call right now, we'll send you Time at almost half off the cover price, and you'll also get free the Time alarm clock telephone with special features like snooze alarm and automatic redial. This offer won't last long, so call now.
I read that you're a dreamer, Tom Monaghan. And I also read that you say dreams are not just kid stuff. Dreams are very important.
Well, when I was a child, that's all I did. I almost flunked out of high school. I barely got into college, and I spent most of my time being bored and daydreaming. But I daydreamed I was going to be an actress. And I think that's why I got into direct sales, because I love being on the stage. I love talking in front of groups. But I didn't put any of it. I was too shy. I couldn't dare go to acting school. But I never dreamed about a business. And I think it just sort of happened because of my child. I'm back to mission. I think I had a tremendous commitment to my little girl. I had to make her life perfect because mine was very far from it. So I bought all these wonderful toys. You know, what else does a good Jewish mother do? You start a company when your child needs something, right? Can't just take care of...
Yes, I'm afraid so. That's what they do.
Right,
They start their
absolutely.
own
But you
company.
bring up a very important point, which is you have to visualize far into the future some vague idea of what you're going to do, even though I'm very conscious of the fact that I only think about 6 months into the future. But I visualize 5 years in the future in a vague kind of way.
Yes.
And then you think, what do I do in the next 6 months to sort of make sure I move in that direction? You
I think
notice
it's a shortfall of an entrepreneur sometimes, too, that we do both and yet don't really... Well, I can only speak for myself. I'm not a great planner. But I can see 5 years from now exactly how I want the company to be and what products and what countries I want to be in, and yet ask me where I'm going to be tomorrow and I'm in chaos. I don't know if you're
People
all
are
the same.
always asking, or they're asking often, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? How do you become one? How do people become entrepreneurs? And I really think this subject you're talking about right now, dreaming, I think too many of us are inhibited. I think there's an entrepreneur in every one of us. I just think that we need to figure out how to get it out. And one of the ways that you get it out is by being willing to dream about things that other people might think are ridiculous. Because generally, when somebody does really well in a business, I mean, who would have ever thought of buying a razor and then doing these ads, and all of a sudden the ads being the thing that makes the company? I mean, people, you know, nobody would get in front of a TV set like that except Victor, and now look what it's doing for the company. I think it's the willingness to dream and get that creativity out of an individual. I think that's
Plus,
the key to it.
the other thing, the dreaming, is the willingness to accept risk. Because I think everybody who goes into an entrepreneurial venture has to take risk and make sacrifices.
But you know what? I don't think entrepreneurs see risk as risk.
No, they
think
see
if
it
we-
as opportunity.
Or something. If you really saw the risk, you wouldn't have the courage to do it. So I never take credit for being a risk person. That's what people say, that entrepreneurs take risks. We don't see it the same way.
Well,
gotta
you
come back.
said you borrowed money and you
But I
hurt
didn't see it as a
yourself.
risk. I thought,
That's a
so
risk.
what if I lose? You know, what do I have to lose? I'm not happy now. What could be worse? Really, that's how I looked at it.
You said that to your husband? I'm not happy now. What can I do?
Well, we've had our moments. But no, I was in daycare and I was making $4 an hour. I had a master's in education. I thought, what am I doing? 10 years of human service work, giving almost the same hours that I work now, and I'm not sure where the reward was. So I just didn't see where it could get any worse, frankly. At the worst, I lost my house. I didn't see that as the end of the world either.
Victor, I've got to come back to a comment you made a few minutes ago, and that is that entrepreneurs are not in it to make money, that they're really in it because of the desire to be in it and that sort of thing. I've said that several times, and people's comments are, yeah, well, that's the only reason you feel that way is because you've made all the money you need. I've thought about it now for the last few minutes since you made that comment, and I'm really stimulated by the desire to make money. I really am. I'm fired up by the mission. Once I decide to do something, I would put the intensity. I'd go to the end no matter what. I mean, no matter what would happen, I'd go to the end once. And it is the mission that's important. But I'd have to say that making a profit is a good way to keep a score.
Well, that you keep score. That's for sure. That's the only way to keep score. But for example, in our business, my goal, and we're getting very close, is to be the #1 shaver company in the United States and then the world. And right now we sell about 22% of all the electric shavers sold in the world, and about 40% of those shavers sold in the United States. Now my goal is to be #1. I'm willing to invest monies to achieve that goal. That's the goal. It's not the bottom line as far as I'm concerned. I'm committed. I've got the best product. I want to be #1.
And the fun things you do along the way that cost money are just incidentals. They just
As long as we're profitable. Yes, because that's my drive. Really, the amount of money, if the company doubled its profit, I'm not going to change my lifestyle.
But even as you say
You
that,
can't
Victor,
change your lifestyle. There's no higher you can go.
No. If you want to have my lifestyle, David, I work 14 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and I'm on the road 6 months of the year. I don't have time to enjoy
well, you could
what
keep-
No,
what
I'm right
could be
behind you.
possible.
you
I'm
could
right
buy
behind
the
you.
Detroit Tigers.
But he
Yeah,
doesn't
but I
want that.
couldn't play shortstop either.
Yeah, but what is your equivalent? That's an interesting point. What's your equivalent of the Detroit Tigers for Tom Monaghan? What do you do for pleasure that says, I love this?
I'm an active tennis player. My son and I are ranked #1 in the East in Father Son, and we play the father-son circuit, and when we travel, we always try to go to a place where there is tennis. The whole family is tennis-oriented.
Except that basically business is the most fun thing you do, isn't it, Victor?
Yes.
Yes, of course. That's
Yes.
why you want to be number one.
Right, and but it's not the monetary drive
No, I
anymore.
understand that completely.
I've got to interject here. You keep saying that, but really, you didn't say I want to make the best shaver in the world. You said I
Yes.
want to be...
No, he said they have the best shape.
We have the
Okay,
best.
but you're not talking about improving it. You're talking about being number one, which really means the most dollars go to your company than the other company, which is still money. Whether it's your bottom line or whether it's the company having the most dollars, you're still shooting for dollars. And I think any entrepreneur shoots for dollars as a measurement of success, even though it's
no,
not...
there's
That's
two
the only way to
measurements.
keep score.
Yeah,
There's
it's
two
not...
ways of measuring success. One is the profitability of the company. The other is brand share, that you have satisfied more people than any other electric shaver.
Some people would say, I don't want to be the biggest, I just want to be the best. They
Well,
wouldn't care about
That
brand
wouldn't be
share.
Victor Kyle.
No, I made the statement originally that it was the best product, and we've got tests to prove that. So I gave that as a given, and of course we're working all the time to try to improve it. But I think that when you're in a competitive game, and we compete with companies, we're the smallest company in the industry. Our nearest competitor corporately does $3 billion, and our largest competitor
It's a
does
Dutch
$35 billion. No, that's Philips. They do $24 billion. So we're the little guys on the block. And if we're successful, to me, it's getting market share rather than just taking as much money out of the company as possible, because we are very incentivized in the company. We pay out a lot of money as incentives to individuals. We have profit sharing. And so it's a group cooperative effort. I look at us as circling the wagons. Don't forget, we produce in the United States and have been producing against the strong dollar and exporting overseas, which there are very few companies in the United States that do that.
Is it fair to say then that dollars are important to entrepreneurs, and money certainly is, but it isn't the personal consumption of the dollars after a point that's so important, that any of us here, once you reach a certain level of enjoying whatever it is, tennis or sports, that's it. I mean, you've done that. Now the trick is, how do I make my company grow? Because that's an ego or a pride or an ambition.
That's where
and it's
That's
measured in
right.
dollars, but
Yeah.
personal consumption loses its meaning at some point.
Correct. Or else he'd sell out.
You're
Or...
the Lee Iacocca of the face.
I hate
think
to
that's a
ask
fair
where
statement.
what part of the anatomy he is.
Well, you sit on his product. Tom, you came from an orphanage, and that must have been a hard life.
It was, the early years were very good. I had a very good nun that I owe everything to, very kind and encouraged me. In fact, when I said I was going to be a priest, shortstop for the Tigers, and an architect, she said, well, it's possible. You could do it if you really want to. In later years, I got a nun, Sister Ladislaus, who was worse than any drill instructor I ever had in the Marine Corps, and the place became a prison to me.
Well, what happened to the architect ambition?
I settled in on priest, and I decided just to be a priest, and I got kicked out of the seminary in the 10th grade.
You must have been bad. Very bad. I think that the incentive of profit is probably, whether you like it or not, the goal, the drive, the trigger.
I don't agree with that. That's just, you have to have profit in order to grow. You have no choice. If you don't have profit, you go out of business. And I have a Wall Street investor who has a minority share, and that's his trigger. And that's what he's always yelling at me about, is how much is your profit? I'm going, I don't care. We're making enough to continue to grow. But when Savvy 60 Women came out and I was number 39, I hit the roof. I mean, 39! I want to be one. That's what's important to me. My husband said, you're 39 out of the whole country. I said, you don't get it. You don't understand. 39 is just down there somewhere. So profit is not the motive, at least not for Victor and not for me. Perhaps you are different.
Well, I can tell you at Living Well, we have 1,000 salespeople, and about 90% of them are women. And they are highly motivated, and their desire is to make a substantial amount of money. They're all on a commission
Living Well,
basis.
people may have turned in late and don't know Living Well. Living Well are 400 fitness centers that you've got all over the country.
Right. We acquired, for example, the Elaine Powers chain here in New York and changed the name to Living Well Lady. And these salespeople, profit may not be all that important to us, but I can tell you that profit or what they make is extremely important to them.
Yeah, because they start out at a lower level, and to them, now they can enjoy some of the luxuries of life. But, You know, as you get older, and I've got a lot of gray hair now, which is not dyed on the commercials, incidentally, you look at values of life. There was a company down in Wilmington, North Carolina, which had been padlocked. The bank had padlocked it because it was going under. And they came to me. Nobody else wanted the company. It made neckties. Now, I didn't know anything about neckties, but one thing I did know, that this company made a good product because they were the largest supplier of Sears and Roebuck in the United States, so they had a quality product. The bank was willing to take a, as they say, a haircut to make it possible so that the company could be turned around. And I went in there after they'd lost $5 million in the prior year, $1.2 million in the first quarter, and we've turned the company around. And instead of 200 people working down there now who would have been out of work, we now have over 350 people working. Now, that's what I get satisfaction out of.
How'd you turn it around?
Oh, it was very simple. First of all, we got rid of the old management. That's usually what causes the company. It's not the product in many cases. It's not the people on the factory floor. It's the management that really is destructive. And in this case, that's what it was.
But that is so difficult to just go in and say goodbye to management.
Well, it wasn't that difficult when they were on the throes of bankruptcy and you ended up owning the whole company.
But don't they still care? I mean, doesn't the old management, weren't they trying?
Yes, but they weren't capable, number one. And number two, they were living off the fat of the land. That had gotten them in trouble. One guy had his mother-in-law on the payroll, and another one had 3 cars that he was charging to the company. So we slimmed it all down. And what you find in that company, as was in Remington as well, that when you're not doing well in a business, you try to get into something else because you think that the new thing is going to save you. The grass is greener on the other side. For us that have been married all this time to one person, we know the answer on the other side, you see. You folks in this group who have made certain...
What are you talking about?
Never mind. But it's the same thing in a business. I have an expression.
I'm not sure what you said. Is the grass greener on the other side or not?
Yeah, you think it's greener outside.
But you were about to say that it was.
The best grass in town?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And the business that you're in is the best business that you can be in. Make it successful, and then look to go into another one. And people sometimes think they're not doing well in this. Let's go into that, because we'll do well there. Usually, if you're a failure in one thing, you're going to be a failure in another as well. So concentrate on what you're doing. And this company had gone off to try to find a safe haven through other products. Belts, for example, they went into, and went into jeans. And everyone they went into just failed like they were failing in their core business. So that's a satisfaction, though, that I get of taking something that wasn't successful, turning it around, and seeing people employed who wouldn't have been employed.
I'd like to pick up on something you said.
Is that one of your ties you wear?
Yeah.
My
Tom
bet.
and I like those ties.
I'll
make a bet with you.
Okay.
I'd like to pick on something Tom said for a minute.
Yeah, you can come right back to that. And incidentally, you should have fired the guy. Any guy who puts his mother-in-law on the payroll should go.
What if she's good?
Can't be good if she's fire him. We'll be right back.
If you're injured in any kind of an accident, which lawyer should you call? Before you get here, you better have the best legal help possible.
Call Davis & Lee anywhere in New York or New Jersey. Simply dial LAWYERS for a free phone consultation. Remember, dial lawyers to learn if you're due a cash settlement. And there's never a fee unless we win money for you.
This is Phil Rizzuto flying over the national headquarters of the Money Store, the largest independent home mortgage company in America. We've got a network of branch offices across the nation ready to serve each local community with fixed-rate, long-term first and second mortgages. The Money Store is a direct lender. That's why qualified homeowners get instant approval for equity loans of any size, with low fixed rates and low monthly payments. Find out how low our fixed rates are. Call the Money Store today.
Manhattan, home of the Empire State Building, the World Trade Center, and the grand opening of Crazy Eddie's newest superstore, 999 3rd Avenue between 59th and 60th Street, today through Sunday. It's Crazy Eddie's greatest grand opening sale ever. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and baseball caps, and all great Crazy Eddie superstores are celebrating. So get ready, Manhattan, because Crazy Eddie's coming to 999 3rd Avenue between 59th and 60th, today through Sunday. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and baseball caps. Be there!
when I couldn't read, I felt very frustrated. You know, it's a terrible thing that the world around you could, everyone able to read, and you can't.
Become a volunteer. Teach an adult to read. Contact Literacy Volunteers of America.
An organization like Literacy Volunteers, with no motive but to help a fellow human being like me, I don't know what to say or how to repay somebody like that.
Okay, what did you want to ask?
I want to challenge your statement that women are selling well and money is their reason. I would challenge you to say that if you took two women side by side in your business, for that matter any business, and one's motive was money, and one had a mission that your centers were going to change every woman who walked in, and money was sort of secondary to her drive to change that world, your person who had the mission would outsell 10 times and make twice or 10 times the money, however you're structured, of the gal who's selling for money. And my thesis is that if your women are truly profit-oriented, and that's why they're selling, you could be doing even better than you're doing if you changed their heads.
Well, I agree. There's no way to be a good salesperson unless you really do believe in either the product or the mission or the company or the particular center, or that you can change somebody's life. And you have to really believe it. There's no question about that. And there also is that competitive factor of wanting to be the best. And those are major things. The only thing I'm saying is that for some reason they always know the amount of their paycheck.
Oh, well, we all do. We all do. But if that's the driving force, you've got a problem.
Well,
Not you specifically.
I feel like, excuse me, go ahead, Rich.
Life is not so simple, I don't think, that any of us believe that it's just money or just ambition. It's a mixture of all these things. And there are various times in our lives. When you first start off, it might be a vague desire to want to get rich someday. Then you get into your business and you see the real problems of it, and you realize after a while you're not doing it for the money because you're working 20 hours a day, and it's not the money anymore. You can make more money at your last job. And then 5 or 10 years later, maybe you've acquired some wealth, and you think, well, it was worth it, and I'm glad I've got it, but now there's something else driving me. And so it changes at different periods in your life.
It really does. Richard, I'll have to admit, I've been sitting here all this time, and I've got to ask you, your catalog, the Sharper Image catalog, from the time it first started, I was just really amazed at the tremendous success it had. And it's a tough business. The catalog business is a tough business. We happen to have developed the catalog, so I know a little bit about that. How did you happen to decide to go into the catalog business?
Well, I was a runner, not very good a runner, but a runner, and there was a little digital stopwatch I wanted to sell because I'd seen it advertised but couldn't find it anywhere in stores. So I took out a little mail order ad for $200, and that ad made $300, which is really nothing. But then I found a better watch. And the next year, took out a full-page ad in Runner's World magazine. The ad cost $1,000. And that ad over the next 12 months made me $300,000, about $250,000 in 12 months. That was 1978. So I had all this money and didn't want to lose that success, so I thought I'd better do something to protect this wonderful little beachhead I just established. I mean, after all, I'm scared to death. I've got one watch, one ad, one magazine it's working in. I could lose all this in a moment. Somebody puts a better watch in a different ad, it's all over. I just made $300,000. I'm not going to go back. So I took the money and printed a color catalog.
How'd you get your products?
Sent out the catalog. Well, the first year I didn't know how to get products. So the first spread of the catalog, believe it or not, had nothing but the phone number on it, which was terrible. Just a big phone number. That was pretty stupid in retrospect, but I didn't know any better then. I was too naive to know. A lot of, when you first start, you do a lot of things out of naivete. Anyway, so...
Richard, explain the kind of products that you have in your catalog, because they're really unique.
The Sharper Image mix is very unusual because it is a combination of high technology, electronics, exercise, even some jewelry, something wild and crazy like a 12-foot suit of armor, or a little pocket motorcycle for $700 that's only this long, but a real grown-up can ride on it.
Do you ever sell those crazy things like the armor?
Sure.
You
Wait
do.
a minute.
Oh, we
pocket, just this. A pocket motorcycle?
A pocket motorcycle about the size of this table right here that a grown person can sit on, but you wouldn't really ride it anywhere. And you might wonder, who wants that for $700? Or this month, in the brand new issue that's coming out, we have a $1,500 remote control car that's about 3 feet long and goes about 40 miles an hour. And it's the most fun thing to drive you've ever seen. It's $1,500. You could almost buy a used real car, and yet it's only 3 feet long, and no one can ride in it. You just control it with a radio control.
Who buys that?
Well, it's a mixture of, some people are well-to-do, but others are just people that save up their money and they want to buy something fun and different and new.
You're trying to appeal to the yuppies, right? The young, urban, professional, middle-class people.
Yeah, our typical customer is a professional person, 70% men, 30% women, 40 years old, lives in an urban, professional managerial job.
Don't you have a cordless telephone?
Cordless telephones are big, but this year you got to have a 2-line cordless, David. You can't just have a 1-line cordless anymore.
Yuppie. Strike again.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, what else do you have for today's man who has everything?
Oh, it's an odd mix of products, I tell you. Let's see, at Christmas, a big seller was an $8,000 jukebox that was a reproduction of the famous Wurlitzer, but with brand new stereo components in it. And it's hard to believe that we sold about, 50 of those in December at $8,000 each, and so it cleared out this guy's ability to produce them for the next 6 months. And that was a big seller. It's just never, it ceases to amaze you what sells to people.
Do that again, will you? I'd like one this year. Really.
That's a great product.
Do you sell what appeals to you personally? Is that how you make
Well,
your
that's how it works. You know, and I was going to say, if you ever want to succeed in a business, I think first of all you have to do something a little bit original. And our catalog was a little bit different than other catalogs when it first came out, and people saw that. It can't just be a copy of the next business. You got to do something different. I don't know what yours is, Tom. Maybe it's delivery made yours unique, but something has to be an angle on it.
Well, I try to make my pizza so that I liked it the best, rather than.
And the other thing.
Well, you should explain to the world what your pizza is. You don't come in and eat a pizza at your place, Domino's Pizza. You phone.
That's right.
It's home delivery.
That's right.
And it's kept warm en route to the home by heating in the cars.
Yes, we have portable ovens in the cars and insulated pouches to put the pizzas in. And there's no sit-down facilities in our stores. We're about 90% delivery and about 10% pickup.
It's fascinating to me to watch everybody in town suddenly starting to deliver pizza since Domino came in.
I love the pizzas. They're just tremendous. They really are.
I've had them. They're wonderful. And they're warm. They're hot. That's the miracle. Because if you order an ordinary pizza, it's ice cold.
Who designed that magic wrapper?
Pardon?
Who designed that magic wrapper that you've got that keeps them warm?
Oh, boy, that was one of our suppliers. But the thing that we started with almost in the beginning was the portable oven with canned heat. In fact, I bought the inventor's prototype from him. And we're the first one to use a oven in the car with its that provided its own heat, other than just an insulated box of some sort.
Do you have a map near your telephone that takes orders? Because you will not deal with anyone that can't get it within 30 minutes.
That's right. We usually have about a 1.5 mile radius from our store. And we have a listing of the streets. We have maps on the wall for the drivers, but the phone personnel usually know all the streets.
How much tips should you give a pizza deliverer, the delivery man?
Well, I delivered a lot of pizza, and I got very little tips, but I was mostly around the college campuses where we started in the old days. But I really don't know.
$1 would be.
That sounds pretty generous.
Okay. There's an interview in Forbes magazine with a very successful entrepreneur who told the interviewer that he had missed his child's birthday. He'd missed his anniversary. He'd had to miss 2 of the last 10 Thanksgivings. Don't you pay a fearful price?
I don't think it's acceptable to miss your child's birthday. Period.
Yeah,
I don't think that's acceptable.
I don't believe in the fearful price theory either. I don't buy that at all. I go to work at 10:30 and go home at 6:30.
You're doing something that I'd like to know about.
Well, you know what it is? I think about my business about 20 hours a day, but I find that when you go to work, you don't necessarily get anything done that you can't do better being away from work. You have to go there occasionally. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I am saying that the important thing is to understand what you're doing and to understand that vision. And actually physically being there to do it yourself is just keeping you from where you want to be in the future. That's a bold statement, but I'll throw that out.
I'm having a lot of trouble with that.
Some of us here are better managers.
Yeah,
than
really?
others, yes.
I was just wondering what I'm not delegating.
Tom Faccio, you were happily married until you became a tycoon, right? And then your hours and your absences and the rest of it.
I traveled for about 4 years. I was gone. I was in a different city, 3 or 4 different cities a week. I did whatever needed to be done at the time. It was just an all-consuming desire to make the business successful, and that takes you away from home.
But hold on, think about it for a second. Supposing you're president of the country, and you've got all this going on, the armed forces, welfare. I mean, that person doesn't go to all those things.
Yeah, look what shape the country's in. I don't want my business to be in that
supposing your
shape.
business got 3 times as big, should that mean that you should be 3 times as busy? You work 3 times as many hours?
I'm listening. I like it.
It should work the other way. I mean, what about the guy that's president of the biggest corporation in America? Or the woman? That cannot be that he has to spend 20 or she spends 27 hours a day. It can't be. They spend no more time than you do, and yet their business is 20 times bigger. So how are you going to do that?
Could I take time to call my secretary and tell her I'll be there in 3 weeks?
Well, the point I'm making is that the time management is really the secret of success, and the less time you spend each day, the more successful you're going to be. Because that means...
I don't think you can generalize, because it all depends. If you're stereotyped, but, you know, if you're in businesses that can expand and rapidly, if I told you all the businesses we're in, you know the shaver because you see it advertised. But I'll tick off a few businesses that you're going to think is crazy, but somebody has to get into
I'm in
them.
a service business. We do 3,000 individual phone orders a day.
Yeah, but you have set up to do that.
Well, it's a service business, so this is not high finance here. This is like one order at a time.
But if you're going to go into new things, you have to have a thought process, and you can't be all alone. You have to discuss it. Supposing you were going to go into the sword business, for example.
The sword business?
Yes, we're now the largest seller of swords in the United States.
Really?
Yes.
Who uses a sword?
Aha! I'm glad you asked. We have a company called Swords of the World. And what we found was that people buy swords, one, for decorative purposes, to hang over a mantelpiece, two, collectors, particularly ex-military men who have been in battle and they buy the swords from the countries in which they fought. Third is awards. Instead of getting a watch for 25 years, they give a sword with a big emblem, you know. Some people said after 25 years you get the shaft, but...
Here's the sword.
And lastly, the business in the military. Every officer has to have a sword. Well, that's a whole new business. Now, somebody has to conceptualize it, price it. Now, you don't do that alone in a little room. You go out and you do your test marketing.
Well, I'm all for going out, and I spend a lot of time out, but I don't necessarily consider that the same as going into the office of the company. And if anything, I see too many people go to the company and they talk to their executives about what they should do, but forget that. You should go out and look, you know, try other pizza, or walk through malls, or go look at other restaurants, or whatever business
You're still active. You're not sitting home thinking about what you're going to do and dreaming of the future. You're actually performing during those
How many hours a day are you working? How many days a week?
I don't call it work, so I don't separate work from play. I do both hard, and I just...
Does your wife work with you?
She works in the office doing the payroll for the home office employees.
Because I would agree with the fact that we probably all love what we do, but my husband would tell me I work, and then I'm away from the house, and he does not.
Too much.
Yes, you got that right.
Well, I've got my wife fooled. I think I'm lazy, but my wife thinks I'm a workaholic.
So what I'm suggesting is you do work very many hours, and you are away from home, even if you enjoy what you're doing. You're still... Yes, there is a price. I agree with you. There is a big price to pay.
Maybe
I would say there is
work.
a fearful price.
I mean, work can be going out and seeing what the competitors are doing, and you don't really think of that as work because you're just walking around looking. You're not, you're not writing at your desk. You're not taking phone calls at your desk. You're out just wandering around. That can be a thought process that's very important, but I wouldn't call that work necessarily. So maybe work is a funny thing to define.
Well, to me, it's a game. It's like playing tennis or any other sport. It's competitive. You're trying to sell more pizzas than the next guy.
Except I still come back to the fact that while you're doing that...
Right.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's not the money, then.
No.
You want to win. You're playing
one.
the game. That's exactly right.
When
it's
you play
winning.
a game, you try to score a goal and get
And the scorecard happens to be the total sales that you have, share of market, and the bottom line. If you're losing money, you're losing.
It's a lovely game.
It is a
game.
It's not greed. It's a sense
No, I
of
didn't say greed. I said green. It's a green
Not
game.
really that. You know, it's there's a wonderful exchange in Hooker's translation of Cyrano de Bergerac, and with the Comte de Guiche talking to Cyrano reminds him that, referring to Don Quixote, reminds him that windmills, if you fight with them, will swing round their long arms and cast you into the mire. And Cyrano's response was, are up among the stars. And these people here have been reaching for the stars. Now, they have all got enough money that they could go sit on the beach tomorrow and do what many people dream of doing, nothing. They ain't doing it. And the reason they're not doing it is they're reaching for the star, and that's what's driving them.
Oh, I love that
Okay,
comment.
I like that too. We'll be right back.
If you're about to remodel, don't. If you're about to build an addition, don't. Not until you get the free Window Wizards catalog that saves you up to 50% on Anderson windows, bays, and bows, entrance doors, kitchen cabinets, and building materials. Shop at home and get delivery. Window Wizards beats any advertised price, so call for your free Window Wizards catalog. 1-800-523-8707. 1-800-523-8707. Why pay more?
Are you okay? But a certain Samaritan had compassion on him.
Hey, could you help me here, please?
The message that can change the world hasn't changed. From the Mormons, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hi, I'm Jim Sicking. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among teenagers today. 57 teenagers attempt suicide every hour. 18 teens die every day. Over 6,000 kill themselves. Be alert. Familiarize yourself with the warning signs, depression or change of mood, or two. Listen and learn to communicate. Don't get caught thinking it won't happen to you. Show that you care. Get involved.
Don't be afraid or embarrassed. Your local mental health or crisis intervention service will help.
Get out there and let's do it for them.
There's a little boy in Africa who hasn't had enough to eat in months. In Brazil, this young girl is malnourished. Children from different parts of the world with much in common. Hunger, sickness, and brutal poverty. Christian Children's Fund is working hard to improve young lives with food, medical care, education. As a CCF sponsor, you'll get a child's photo and be able to exchange letters. Why not find out about becoming a CCF sponsor? Please call. A poor child is waiting.
We're all for reaching for the stars. I'm for that. But on a day-to-day basis, I think what motivates me is something a little bit more instinctive and primitive. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's something that has to do with getting to the top, and it's not quite so elevated as reaching for the stars.
You're aiming to get to the top. And, you know, if you don't reach high, you won't even take the next step. If you only aim for the next step, the chances are you ain't going to get there. You're only going to go part way up to that. So reach as high as you can. You may not make it, but you'll go much further than if you just try to get to the next level.
Let me ask your comment on this. When I first started, Victor, I spent one summer, I think, for 3 months sitting on a deck thinking about how to make $1 million. And it finally dawned on me after about 3 months, I was never going to make $1 million thinking about it. I was only going to make $1 million, so I guess to show somebody who's thinking about making $1 million back then, by doing something and seeing what opportunity presented itself along the way. And I learned from that, if it's true, that you get started in something, I don't care what it is, and then you see an opportunity to grow or expand and get closer to that vision. But you don't really sit home and come up with $1 million idea. No such thing exists.
But
Is
your
that true or
vision
not?
was to make $1 million? I mean, that was the vision
Well,
you
in
were
a
searching
vague
for?
kind of, I want to be a successful business entrepreneur, and that used to mean $1 million. $1 million isn't what it used to be, but I mean, that's what it was sort of, 10 or 15 years ago.
I agree with you. You've got to be in the middle of the action. I don't think you can sit. I think that being in the middle of the action, looking for timing opportunities, responding to other people, I think that's what stimulates you. I really do. I'm interested in this reaching for the stars kind of theory. I've always thought of it in terms of a mission. I feel like that when you start a company, and once the group of people or the basic team feels that they're involved in a mission and there's that intensity, once that starts to happen, then that company's on the way. I mean, you can sense it. You can sense it when you talk to the people. You can see it in their eyes. You can taste it. And so I think that, do you mean reaching for the stars? Do you mean that's like that sense of mission? That sort
Same
of thing?
thing.
Yeah.
You have a goal, and you strive for it.
Why are so few companies aware of the importance of enlisting the enthusiasm, the loyalty, the fervor of the manpower, woman power? Most jobs are just plodding jobs, and they don't feel part of the aspiration of the company.
Those are the ones that Victor came in and fired all the top management.
I think management has to share the financial information with the employees and share their dreams with them, and I think they'll try to help you accomplish
Well,
it.
I also think, and big corporations are going to throw stones at me, but I've met a lot of corporate type people, men and women, more men right now, I must say, than women, because I think women are better, and managers. Corporate type people are the kind of people who are looking at the bottom line, who have lost their sense of mission. They are not in these huge multi-million, billion-dollar corporations because they want to change every single child in the world, and they want to make you know, they want to have kids grow up different. They are looking at quarter to quarter
What happens if you don't have
results.
children?
Well, whatever your mission is.
You can't be in the toy business.
Well, you know, the public companies are looking quarter to quarter, right? And that's when you're focused on money, I think that's when things go downhill, and that's when you lose your sense of people and your concern and reaching for the stars. You're
Boy,
reaching
I
for
love it.
Wall Street.
I love it. Boy,
I think
all
Wall
these
Street
analysts that
destroys it.
follow publicly held companies, we're going to tell them just forget it. And don't
Well,
worry,
we
don't worry
really should.
about
I
it.
think it's part of the downfall of America is the public market. I truly do.
The word investor, the way it was created, and when we started our capital markets, was on a different theme. You put money, and it was largely in a community where somebody had an idea and he needed capital, so he went around to his neighbors, and they invested in the company, and they were in for the long haul. Today, the financial markets are controlled by money managers who also have to perform every 90 days in order to keep the people who have bought their funds happy. So at the end of every quarter, you see tremendous switching of stocks by funds, so at the end, they can pretty up their holdings to show that, yes, they have the right stocks, even though they may have bought them wrong. So what we have is a short-term view today.
Absolutely.
And that's what's destroying, in part, the economic base of the United States.
You're really right. Industry after industry has been destroyed because of that. Take the banking industry, for example. When banks felt that they absolutely had to grow on a quarter-to-quarter basis 15 or 20% a year, that means that they had to make loans to foreign countries, and all these loans that were, you know, were riskier than they needed to be. And let's talk more about it. We want to change these analysts. We want them to go ahead,
What's
Lane.
even worse to me is that they make you feel like, and I'm not a public company, and I never will be, because,
Look out now.
among other things, public companies make you feel like a failure. If you are suddenly judged by a quarter, and for one quarter you don't grow as much, or you grow a little less, or you lose a little money, you don't feel like, hey, I'm this great person, and so I didn't make the exact profit, but I'm still doing whatever it is, you're helping women, I'm changing kids, whatever. That's not what you are a failure. And if you're a failure, that goes right down to your employees. And I just think it's devastating.
There's another side of that, though, which
What's
is...
the good side?
Well, I've been a private company for a long time, and I've had that feeling some quarters or some months where you make money and some you don't make money, and I like the ones where you make money a lot better.
But
and
nobody's
so
counting you.
if
It's your own internal...
Yeah,
Wait till you have a whole public that says, oh, bad person,
But I
you
think a
haven't
lot of times
succeeded.
people in the company have an attitude that it doesn't matter quite so much. They don't see the bottom line. It's not their stock. What do they care? And once it's a public company and they have stock options, they want to see things improve.
No, I disagree with you
Richard, I was
completely.
chairman of a public company
Completely.
for about 8 years, and now we're private. There's no comparison. I'd never go public. First of all, the average chap in the company, in a private company, and Tom mentioned it, you keep them informed today.
Exactly.
You tell them how you're doing. You tell them the bottom line. You give them profit sharing, so they are a part of it. But in a public company, first of all, there are a lot of negatives. You have to make announcements that in a private company you don't have to. If you're negotiating and you sign a letter of intent and you're private, you don't have to make that announcement so the whole world knows that you've had this negotiation, so somebody else can come in and outbid you, for example, if you're trying to buy a company. Because you're private, you don't have to say anything. The other problem that's being a public company, I think Lane hit it, is your own self-worth and
That's the
image
killer.
that you will feel and every employee will feel. If you ever have a bad quarter, you're going to become, in your own mind, a semi-failure. And lastly, and I think the key thing, is you cannot plan for the future. You're only looking at 90 days. I never look at, you couldn't, if you asked me, how did you do each quarter last year compared to the year before? I don't know. We go month by month and the year, and that's it. But if you're public, you're going to have to manage your business on a quarterly basis. And there's been many companies that have gotten in problems because they inflate shipments at the end of the quarter to get a good result.
Right.
Victor and everybody, you go public for two reasons. To get substantial additional working capital for your company, expansion, and second, to become rich, personally.
See, but I come right back to that.
Right now, private,
right back to that.
private, Thomas, private,
Private.
private,
public,
private.
You're going public.
Can you not anticipate a day when you will want to have cash in some chips and get $50 million for Victor Kiam?
No,
Because what would we do with it?
What would we do with it?
Really?
Exactly right,
to me.
No,
I give
Victor
it
and
to
I
you?
can't live
Well.
in 3 houses because we don't have time to live in the house we have. So what good is 3 houses? What is money going to buy me? More of whatever, more
You mean
cars?
so we can
more
sit back and
coats?
pound our chest and
So
say,
what?
look, this is what we're worth? That's
It's
unimportant.
irrelevant. I
It's
agree
completely unimportant.
What if you need the capital? What if the
That's-
You can never
that's a
conceive
different
yourself
story.
going
Then
public?
You may have no choice.
No, no. I tried to do it many years ago in the late 60s, and I fell flat on my face and ended up losing the company for 10 months.
Wow.
I'm glad it worked out.
Oh, no. Well, wait a minute. I have to pause, but tell us about that. We'll be back in a minute.
The legendary unicorn. He possesses the brightness of light that drives away all darkness. The mythical, magical, mysterious unicorn has been the symbol of wealth, power, and love for ages. Now, nationally renowned sculptor Hermann Gazarian has captured this mythical creature in his work of art, The Legendary Unicorn. The unicorn came to Earth on a spiral of light, and its spiral horn was thought to have magical powers. The artist has sculptured each flawless detail and layered his creation in pure 24-karat gold. This work of art is mounted on a pedestal of genuine hardwoods and stands a full 5 inches high. Each Gazarian unicorn is engraved with the artist's authentic signature and minted with its own individual serial number. On December 31st, 1986, the original Gazarian molds will be destroyed and no more sculptures will be created. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The legendary unicorn, layered in 24-karat gold, is only $19.95, an extraordinary value for a signed and numbered limited edition collector's item. Order now.
To order the limited edition Legendary Unicorn, call 1-800-826-8080. That's 1-800-826-8080. To save COD charges and receive the Legendary Unicorn poem, use your credit card or send $19.95 plus $2 postage and insurance to Legendary Unicorn, P.O. Box 5265, FDR Station, New York, New York.
Hi, I'm Mario Perillo. I've dedicated 40 years creating dream vacations to Italy at fantastic discounts. So call now for this free brochure to Italy's most exciting places. Imagine for about $100 a day, Perillo offers your Pan Am ticket, first-class hotel, 2 meals a day, your own guide, everything. For this free brochure, call Perillo toll-free right now at 1-800-255-5000. About $100 a day. Now that's hard to beat.
Thomas Monaghan, you tried to go public some 10 years ago, you said.
1969.
With Domino Pizza.
Right.
And what happened? Why didn't you?
Well, first of all, I got carried away after meeting Ray Kroc from McDonald's and Sean Y. Brown from Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I thought with my little delivery pizza operation that I could do every bit as good as they could. And that was the go-go days of stocks, particularly fast food. And so I envisioned myself flying around jets and making millions of dollars. And a lot of people were encouraging me to go public, a lot of brokers. And I settled on one, and he told me that before I go public, there's some things I have to do. First of all, I have to quit operating by the seat of my pants and build an organization, get some people with degrees working for me, get rid of my local bookkeeper and get a Big 8 accounting firm, get rid of my one-man legal office in Ann Arbor and get a big city attorney. And most important of all is to show a lot of growth. So I had 12 units then. In 1969, I ended up the year with 44. And when all the dust settled, I lost my shirt. I had the busiest pizzerias in the country. And these new ones just didn't do any business. I couldn't believe it, and I kept carrying them and carrying them. And I did everything that the broker told me to do. I really did my homework, and I did everything he told me to do, and I ended up losing the company. The bank had to take the company over, and 10 months later, that they couldn't run it, they gave it back to me.
Boy. You were not only given bad advice, it was worse than that. The broker was subverting your company and your potential, your future.
I think they do that fairly easily. Because Wall Street does not understand how a company is run. They don't tend to be people-oriented people, but they're excellent at analyzing what they think is your business and analyzing who you are And I mean, I've gotten some incredibly terrible advice, like we did $10 million, 15% pre-tax, and at that point they came in and said, you can't run this company, you need to get a chief executive officer. And I believed them, and that next year we went into bankruptcy.
You did?
Oh, yeah, we had a chief executive officer. It took us from 15% pre-tax to a $500,000 loss. He was great. I was like, why would anybody say that to me after that much success?